Today's episode is brought to you by the Tax Defense Group. Due to the global pandemic, the deadline to file your taxes for 2019 was pushed back to July 15th, 2020. If you haven't filed for 19 yet, there's good news. The Tax Defense Group can e-file your taxes for you. The process is quick, and for millions of people, you'll get money back. So, what are you waiting for? Call the Tax Defense Group today at 800-850-7973 to get started. That number again is 800-850-7973, and you can visit them online at thetaxdefensegroup.com. Today's episode is also brought to you by Writer Junkie. Are you thinking about starting a business or a side hustle? For all businesses to be successful, you need a website. Writer Junkie offers website development, content writing, and SEO services for business websites. Call Writer Junkie today at 805-587-7966, and you can visit them online at writerjunkie.com. What's going on, everybody? Welcome into another episode of the Lakers Outsiders Weekly Podcast, brought to you by UCast Studios. I am your host, Gary Kester, here with you as always. And today I'm going to be doing a top 5 list. I don't do these too often, I don't think. And this will be kind of interesting. This was actually a much harder list to make than I thought it was going to be. I thought it would be a fun little idea since the return of the NBA seems to be imminent. Everything's going forward as planned, even though there's still some doubt out there. There's still a lot of kind of stuff happening around the country and stuff going on in Florida, with safety precautions that the players are hoping to have, and it's a little murky right now. So there is some time. There is some time to kind of get it figured out. But as of right now, the NBA looks like it's still on track to be back next month in the month of July. I'm obviously recording this in June, and hopefully we get playoff basketball. We get to see the Lakers play again with this team because this team is a lot of fun, and hopefully we get to see them go after a championship and actually get a playoff run. Even though there won't be fans in the stands or anything like that, it'll be kind of weird circumstances, which I'll kind of mention about today's video and kind of how it impacts this top 5 list that I've made. But today I'm going to be talking about top 5 Lakers that are most likely to win the team a playoff game this year. And when I say that, it's not necessarily a guy that comes out and scores 40 points and just dominates the game. It's basically just a guy that kind of out of nowhere has a podium game, right? One of the role players kind of comes in, steps up, makes big plays. We've seen it time and time again with the Lakers, with those role players stepping up and making big plays. We've seen it with Robert Horry, Derek Fisher. I mean, the list goes on and on. Even Kareem Rush, in the 2004 Western Conference Finals. Luke Walton had a good game too in the 2004 NBA Finals, even though the Lakers didn't win that series. With championship teams, you go on championship runs, you always have to have those role players that step up and make big plays and big moments and kind of have those unexpected moments where they come through when you don't exactly expect them to do some of the things that they're able to do. So that's kind of what I'm going with today. I'm going over my 5 most likely Lakers to kind of come in and do that and come in and make big contributions kind of unexpectedly and help the Lakers win a playoff game. So basically what this list is going to be like, what it is, I just took out Anthony Davis and LeBron James. Took those two out. To me, the rest of the guys are role players. Nobody else on the team is a star, not an all-star caliber player or anything like that. To me, they're all role players, which isn't a bad thing. Some role players are a lot better than others, and I'll touch on that in a little bit. But I'm going to go over my top 5 list, and then I'm going to talk about why some of the other guys didn't make my list. So before you judge, hear me out all the way through. I'm sure a lot of people are going to disagree with this, and that's totally fine. Like I said, this was a hard list to make because the Lakers have a lot of good players. They have a lot of good players. They have a lot of veteran players that have been there, done that before. And this list was kind of tough to make. It really, really was. So before I dive in, though, as always, guys, be sure, if you're listening to this on YouTube, to like this video and comment below. Comment below. Let me know what you guys think of my list. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Who would you take in? Who would you put, or who would you take out? Who would you put in? Things like that. I love to hear it. I love to hear it and get this discussion going as we get closer and closer to basketball. I'm ready to talk Lakers basketball more and more and really get this thing going again. So let me know. Like I said, YouTube comment. Be sure to like this video and subscribe to Lakers Outsiders and UCast Studios on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. All those major podcast platforms, you can find us there. And you can always find us, Lakers Outsiders, on Twitter and Instagram at Lakers Outsiders. And you can like us on Facebook. You can follow our content up on LakersOutsiders.com. And you can follow me on Twitter as well, at Gary Kester. That's GaryKester. All right. So let's get to my list. This is going to be in order. I'm still not, like I said, making this list was very, very difficult. So I'm still not 100% sold, I guess. I'm still a little iffy on kind of the order of the list, but I feel pretty good about the 5 players that I chose. So, like I said, basically this goes with everybody that's on the roster, not named LeBron James or Anthony Davis. Okay? So, number 5. I went with Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. Why? Because in the playoffs, you're going to probably notice a theme with at least 4 of the 5 players that I picked. But in the playoffs, you need defense. You need defense, you need perimeter defense. Kentavious Caldwell-Pope isn't an elite defender, but he's definitely a serviceable defender. And I think he can provide some defensive support out on the perimeter, whether it's guarding other teams' point guards or 2 guards, whatever it may be. I think he can provide some support out there. And then his shooting this year. His shooting this year has been fantastic. After a very slow start, he really came alive. Really, really came alive and was really pleasant surprise. I know this year he's only averaging 9.5 points per game, but it's in 25 minutes. He's just kind of taking the shots that he needs to take. He's taken 2 less shots than he is this year. Or he had 2 less shots this year than he is last year. Last year he shot 9.2 shots per game. This year it's down to 7.4. And the key difference with him this year is the efficiency has been just night and day. The 3-point line last year, he was okay, 34.7%. This year has been an elite percentage, 39.4% from the 3-point line, and that is exactly what the Lakers need. They need guys that are going to come in, they're going to play defense, they're going to space the floor, so that AD and LeBron can do their thing and just absolutely punish teams because it's the best duo in the league. KCP's been very, very reliable this year. And, he started 20 games, played in 63, but to shoot that percentage, 47% from the field overall is pretty damn good considering half of his shots come from the 3-point line. So, does a really, really good job. He's been an efficient player, good free throw percentage this year, 78% when he does get to the line. And he's just come through in some big moments. He's hit some really timely threes this year. I went to the Lakers' second game in Portland this year. And KCP made a number of big threes in that game, a number of timely threes, and he's been doing that for a large portion of the year. Like I said, after a slow start, really came alive and has been a very reliable player for the Lakers, and I expect that to continue in the playoffs. He's been, you never know with a 3-month layoff, no fans in the stands, neutral court, neutral setting, all that stuff, could really throw a wrench in all this, not just KCP, but really all these guys. But if we're going based on what we've seen this year, which is kind of what I made this list based off of, I still have a lot of faith in KCP. Really, really do, and I really think he is going to be he's going to be a guy that steps up in the playoffs and helps the Lakers in at least one game and has a really good performance that really helps propel them forward. So he comes in at number 5 on my list. So on to number 4. Alex Caruso. I know some of you might roll your eyes. Some of you might think, honestly, that's too low for him. It kind of depends on what you think of Alex Caruso. But I will say defense wins championships and it wins playoff basketball. And Alex Caruso this year, people don't want to, people want to dismiss it because, they think he's just a meme and all this stuff. And that, he's a Laker role player that Laker fans, glorify and overrate and all this stuff. But if you really watch Alex Caruso play this year, that guy can defend his butt off. He is, even even a lot of the metrics show he's been an elite defensive player this year. And I think that's what's going to get him a pretty sizable role in the rotation during the playoffs, is that he can come in. I mean, him with LeBron this year, I think, has been the best two-man duo in the league in terms of like some of the advanced metrics. Obviously, LeBron and Anthony Davis are the two you want out there more than anybody. But when Alex Caruso's out there with those other really good players on this team, with the Danny Greens, with the Anthony Davis, LeBron James, he's obviously he's surrounded by really good players, but he's making an impact on on the defensive end of the floor and playing just elite level defense. And he's going up against some really damn good guards when he does it. And it's just been so impressive to see his growth over the last couple years, but especially this year. People are really taking notice, and that guy can really defend. He can really play off the ball really, really well. Capable three-point shooter, 35.5% from the three-point line this year. Pretty low volume, though, 1.8 threes per game. But he's a pretty good passer. Very surprisingly good athlete. So, I mean, he does a lot of good things. He just kind of does a lot of things here and there that really, really help. He's certainly not a superstar in any one area. I mean, maybe on the defensive end because he's been really, really good. And I think that's going to translate into playoff basketball where every possession means a lot more. A lot of guys in an 82-game season are going to take some possessions off. That's natural. Some guys have to preserve themselves for maybe a late-game situation, whatever. Some guys, a lot of guys, maybe everybody in the league, who knows, takes possessions off. That's just the reality of it. There's just so many that they have during the course of not only a game but an 82-game season that there's going to have games where they're just kind of lackluster and the effort's not there. Caruso consistently plays hard. He plays really good defense, and he just does what is needed of him on the offensive end. And I have a lot of faith in him. When it comes to playoff basketball, I think he's going to be ready to go, and I think he's just going to make an impact. I think his defense is going to make a big, big impact for the Lakers like it has been this year, and I think that's just going to carry over to the playoffs. I really, really do. So, Alex Caruso at number 4. Number 3 on the list, kind of similar, but similar reasoning, but this player has kind of been through it more. Veteran player that has been through some deep playoff runs, been on some veteran teams, some championship level teams. I can't remember if he won a championship or not with the Boston Celtics, but Avery Bradley. Avery Bradley is who I have at number 3, and we saw this in one of the Lakers' last games before the season got shut down or got postponed. Excuse me. He was just an absolute monster in the Clipper game. I think he had 22 points in that game, but he hit a ton of timely threes, kind of brought some attitude and really gave it back to Patrick Beverley. Those are the types of guys you need in the playoffs. You need those guys that aren't going to back down from dudes like Patrick Beverley, right? Whatever you think about Patrick Beverley, he talks a lot, all this stuff. He's like the tough guy or fake tough guy, depending on who you ask. But an Avery Bradley isn't going to back down from a guy like that, and that's what I love about him. He's been there, he's done that. He's played in big games, all this stuff, and you could see in that Clipper game why he was so effective. If he's hitting threes, especially, still gets after it on the defensive end, and he's going to be fresh, going to be ready to go after this long 3-month layoff. And I think just with his experience combined with his defensive ability and got a glimpse of it in the Clipper game, I think he's going to just be ready for these big games, and I think he's going to make big plays, and I think he's going to come through. He's going to come through in big moments and really help the Lakers win. So I got a lot of faith in Avery Bradley as well, and I think he's one of those veteran players that is going to come up big probably a few times for the Lakers in their playoff run. So, all right, the one guy that kind of sticks out that doesn't really fit, I guess, the mold of the defensive players, and this might be the most controversial of the 5 players that I put out here, so I'm curious to know what you guys think. Number 2, I have Kyle Kuzma, and let me tell you why. Kuzma is probably the worst defender of these 5 players that I'm going to mention, and that's okay. He's versatile. He's still, when he applies himself, he's still a capable defensive player, and he's a versatile defensive player at that. I don't think he guards post players very well, like bigger guys very well. I think he's actually better guarding wing players because he's kind of long, kind of rangy, stuff like that, because of his size. And I think he can still be capable, and I think with playoff basketball, guys on that end are just, the effort's going to be there a lot more consistently because, like I said, every possession really matters in the playoffs. Where I really have faith in Kyle Kuzma, even though he is very frustrating because he's very inconsistent, he's very, very up and down, he's still very, very capable of just going ballistic. We've seen it this year. We saw it in the Thunder game. The Thunder game, the Lakers didn't have Anthony Davis, LeBron James, or Danny Green in that game, and Kyle Kuzma went nuts at OKC and led the Lakers to a win. Well, you've seen that from him a number of times in his short career with the Lakers so far. You know, I know he's very inconsistent, and I'm not saying he's going to be consistently winning the Lakers games in the playoffs, but I think there's at least one game in the playoffs that he catches fire and he just goes nuts. And he hits a bunch of threes, scores 25 plus points, and you know he helps the Lakers win a game, at least one game for sure. You know, I would love to see it consistent, and I hope he comes through a number of times in the playoffs. But I have faith that there's going to be at least one game, and that's kind of what this list is based on. Like who is most likely to help the Lakers win a playoff game. And I think Kyle Kuzma is going to have one of those games where he just goes nuts and the shots are dropping, he's scoring at a high clip, and he pours in 25 to 30 points and helps propel the Lakers to a playoff win. So whether you agree or disagree, I know he's a very polarizing figure amongst Laker fans, amongst NBA fans, I guess, in general. But I have faith that Kuzma is going to have moments in the playoffs where he gets red hot, and it's going to really, really help the Lakers offensively and really give them a boost. So, all right, before I get to number one, some of you guys might already know it. I feel like it's fairly obvious, but I'm going to take a quick break here, give you guys a message from our sponsors, and when I come back, I'm going to go over number one on my list, and I'm going to talk about some of the guys that didn't make the list and why I didn't have them on the list. So, on the other end of the break, that's what I'm going to be talking about. But for right now, here's a quick message from our sponsors. Today's episode is brought to you by the Tax Defense Group. Due to the global pandemic, the deadline to file your taxes for 2019 was pushed back to July 15th, 2020. If you haven't filed for 19 yet, there's good news. The Tax Defense Group can e-file your taxes for you. The process is quick, and for millions of people, you'll get money back. So, what are you waiting for? Call the Tax Defense Group today at 800-850-7973 to get started. That number again is 800-850-7973, and you can visit them online at thetaxdefensegroup.com. Today's episode is also brought to you by Writer Junkie. Are you thinking about starting a business or a side hustle? For all businesses to be successful, you need a website. Writer Junkie offers website development, content writing, and SEO services for business websites. Call Writer Junkie today at 805-587-7966, and you can visit them online at writerjunkie.com. Okay, so while I was away, I had mentioned earlier I couldn't remember if Avery Bradley won a title with that Celtics team. I didn't think he was on the 2008 team. I was correct. He joined the league in 2011, but as a youngster, went through some deep playoff runs and some playoff battles with that Celtics group. So I just wanted to look that up while I was away. That was kind of festering on my mind a little bit. I couldn't remember what year he came into the league, but came in 2011. Anyways, back to number one on the list. A lot of you guys probably have already figured it out, but it's going to be Danny Green. And I feel like this one's fairly self-explanatory, but Danny Green, I think this year has been very, very underappreciated by a lot of Laker fans. I know he's really kind of that third guy on this team behind AD and LeBron. And he's only averaging 8.2 points per game. So a lot of people are kind of, upset about that because he makes $15 million a year, pretty good sized contract. He's still shooting a pretty good percentage from the 3-point line, and that's kind of what his job is on the offensive end. He's kind of a catch and shoot guy. 37.8% from the 3-point line on 5 attempts per game. I mean, that's a pretty high volume, 25 minutes. And people don't really give him credit for this, and I don't really understand why. Maybe because it's not a glamour thing, but he is playing really, really good defense, and he is to me he's a defensive anchor on the perimeter for the Lakers. Obviously, AD's that guy that can guard. A lot of nights he can guard all 5 positions. Most nights at least 4 positions, and just defends pretty much everything at the rim and can defend out on the perimeter. Just can do everything defensively, right? Danny Green does a lot of really, really good things defensively for the Lakers, and especially at that position, being a wing player, he's going up against a lot of really, really good players. In the playoffs when the Lakers meet up with the Clippers, assuming that they do, he's that guy that's going to take Kawhi Leonard. He's that guy that's going to take probably James Harden. He's going to draw those defensive assignments for those really good two guards, those wings. He's going to be on them, and rightfully so. I mean, he's still a really, really good defensive player, and he's kind of, to me, kind of a silent X factor on the defensive end for the Lakers, because a lot of people just have overlooked him this year, and they've looked at the points per game and stuff like that, and kind of his counting stats that don't look great. But he's hit his threes at a pretty high clip, and he's been there before. 2-time NBA champion, one with the Spurs, one with the Raptors last year. I know he's had a couple playoff runs that were kind of down in terms of his production overall, but he's been there before. He understands how to play off of a LeBron James and an Anthony Davis. He just knows how to play playoff basketball, and especially playing off of those 2 guys. I know this was back in 2014, but looking at some of these playoff numbers, I mean, career-wise, he shot 39.7% from three-point line in the playoffs. The 2014 year, where the Spurs got their vengeance on the Heat and won the title, Danny Green, looking at this, 47.5% from the three-point line on 4.4 attempts per game in the playoffs. 47.5%. That's insane. He had another playoff run where he shot 50%. With the Raptors last year, wasn't great offensively. 32.8% from the three-point line on 5 attempts a game, but was a big part of what they wanted to do. Helped them out a lot defensively, and I think he's going to do the same thing for the Lakers. I think he's going to really continue to help out defensively, and I think he's going to make threes when they're presented to him. I have a lot of faith in Danny Green. Obviously, I have a lot of faith in all 5 of the guys on this list, but Danny Green to me is the guy that we're going to be able to count on the most outside of the 2 superstars, and is going to give the Lakers some really big moments, some really big shots on offense, but he's going to play really good defense on the other end and really make opposing teams' best players on a lot of nights really have to work for what they're going to get. So Danny Green takes number 1 on this list. Now I will mention some of the guys I didn't have on the list, and some of these guys you guys probably had on the list. First one is Rajon Rondo. I know playoff Rondo is a thing. And I'm not going to say it's not, because Rondo, when he gets to the playoffs, just seems to be a different guy. Based on, and kind of that's what I did with this list, is I base it on what we've seen this year. What we've seen this year out of Rondo, I'm just not impressed. I mean, he has moments where he's good, and those moments are just so few and far in between that I couldn't include him in the top 5 of this list. I trust those other 5 guys just more right now. I would love to be proven wrong, and I would love to see playoff Rondo just go nuts in the playoffs in purple and gold. That would be awesome, and I'd love to be wrong about that. Trust me, I would love to be wrong about that. But based on what I've seen this year, I just couldn't include him in there, even though I do know playoff Rondo is a thing. We've seen it a number of times. That's one I'm hoping to be wrong. I mean, I'm hoping to be wrong on all these guys that I didn't include in this list. But like I said at the start of this, Lakers have a lot of good players, so it was kind of hard to narrow it down to five players. But another guy was Dwight Howard. Dwight Howard has been really, really good role player for the Lakers this year. I just think basically what is asked of him isn't going to be like glamorous enough to be like a podium game, kind of what I mentioned at the start, or necessarily like jump out as winning the Lakers a playoff game. Like, he's going to defend, he's going to rebound, he's going to do all that dirty work, but a lot of that stuff kind of goes unnoticed a lot of times. So I think Dwight is going to be an impact player in the playoffs. just not as much, I think, as the other 5 can be in terms of winning the Lakers a single playoff game. I think a lot of his contributions kind of fly under the radar. And like I said, just kind of does that dirty work. And, don't misunderstand. Like, I'm a big fan of Dwight. I was a fan of signing him back before the season. You can go back and listen to this podcast before then on Dwight. I was all for it. And I think he's going to be an impact player for the Lakers in the playoffs. I just didn't have him above the other 5. So, Jared Dudley. Jared Dudley is a sneaky player, like a sneaky pick, I think, to come in and make a big shot, a big play for the Lakers. He's been there before, played a lot of years in the NBA, played on those Suns teams that were really good, with Steve Nash, Amari Stoudemire, the Mike D'Antoni, Alvin Gentry era, those Suns. He on the Nets last year kind of made an impact in that series with the 76ers. Like I said, he's been there before, and I think he's kind of a savvy veteran that knows playoff basketball, and I think could help out. I just don't know where exactly his minutes are going to come from. We'll have to just see on that. But don't be surprised. Like, don't overlook Dudley, man. Really, really smart player, veteran player, tough player. I think can definitely come in and help the Lakers, help give them a boost in a playoff game or two. And wouldn't be surprised. I just didn't have him over the 5 on this list. Javale Mcgee, I think, is going to continue to play his role really, really well. I like what Javale has done this year. I think he's been pretty good. I just think his minutes are going to be kept down enough to where he won't have as big of an impact as the other 5 do. In the playoffs, he might. I mean, he definitely might. He's a guy that obviously a great lob target, can play defense, can defend around the basket, can really finish up on the offensive end, rebound the basketball, stuff like that. It's not to discredit JaVale or any of these guys, really. I just like the other 5 better. So, Markieff Morris is a guy that I actually considered because I love what he can do for the Lakers versatility-wise. I think he brings a level of toughness to this team that kind of was needed. I think they needed another really, really tough presence on this team, another guy that's not going to back down from anybody or anything, and just isn't afraid of the moment. He, has had some bright moments already for the Lakers in his very short stint so far, and I wouldn't be surprised if he comes through and makes some big shots in the playoffs and just kind of delivers that toughness that the team, I think, needed when they signed him. I think that is going to come in handy. Dion Waiters is another guy. I just couldn't put him on the list, even though I'm a big believer that Dion can come in and be a difference maker. I think he can score. I think he can, create offensively. He can, create offense for himself and for others. He can go get his own shot. I think he can do a lot of good things. It's going to be a matter of the mental state that he's in. Is he focused? Is he ready to go? It seems like, I think I saw something that he was in really good shape. He was staying in good shape during this whole quarantine and everything, and I wouldn't be surprised at all if he comes in and makes a difference. We just haven't seen him play yet, so I couldn't include him in the list, but I wouldn't be surprised at all if he comes through and makes some big contributions. So those were all the guys that I considered. Didn't have them in there. When you look at some of these other guys, Quinn Cook just hasn't really played a whole lot, but he is a championship player. Won titles with the Warriors. He just hasn't been part of the rotation really. So that's kind of why I didn't really consider him. You can do the same thing, I guess, with like the G League guys. Just haven't really played a whole lot. When you look at Kaycock, Horton Tucker, and Antetokounmpo, maybe the Lakers can deploy Antetokounmpo somehow in the finals and get into Giannis's head a little bit, but I don't know. But that's my list. Let me know what you guys think. Like I said, leave it in a YouTube comment. Let me know, what would you change? Do you agree with it? Who would you take out? Who would you put in? Let me know. I want to hear it, and I want to know who your guys' top 5 list. Who do you think can you really count on, and who do you think would come in and is most likely to help the Lakers win a playoff game of the role players that they have? Obviously, we're going to count on AD and LeBron to really carry the load, and I think they're going to come through. But you're going to have those role players step up kind of unexpectedly. Like I said, we've seen it before. We've saw it a number of times with D. Fish. We saw it with Robert Horry, Kareem Rush. Like, you can go back to the Showtime Lakers. You had different guys step up. I mean, it's just kind of it's part of the DNA of a championship team. You got to have those role players to step up. I think the Lakers have those guys on this team. And that's why, like I said, it was tough to make this list because they have a lot of those guys that I think can step up and make big plays in the playoffs and really help the Lakers win playoff games. So, all right, I'm going to get out of here. This one ran a little bit longer than I thought it was going to, but like I said, let me know. Let me know if you agree with my list, if you disagree, and what your list would be and who you are counting on in the playoffs to be that role player hero and help the Lakers win a playoff game or two or several. Who knows? All right. Like I said, I'm getting out of here. Be sure to subscribe to Lakers Outsiders and UCast Studios on YouTube. And if you're listening to this on YouTube, be sure to like this video. And you can subscribe to us on wherever you get your podcasts. All those major podcast platforms, Spotify, Podbean, Apple Podcasts, wherever. Be sure to subscribe to UCast Studios and Lakers Outsiders there. And you can follow Lakers Outsiders on Twitter and Instagram at Lakers Outsiders. Like us on Facebook, or you can get all of our content on LakersOutsiders.com. And you can follow me on Twitter at Gary Kester. Again, that's GaryKester. All right. Thanks so much for listening, guys. I really, really appreciate it. And until next time, this is Gary Kester with the Lakers Outsiders, signing off.